Dr. André, let's start with your story. I know you have the most amazing, amazing journey, which has just filled you with purpose and passion that has had a ripple effect across your life and the lives of many others. Where did it all start for you?
Well, Drew, as I was thinking about this, I realized that I'm celebrating my 30th birthday, probably last month rather than this month, but pretty well exactly my 30th birthday. And the reason I say that is that 30 years ago, almost to the day, I had a scary cancer diagnosis, late stage cancer, and that was close to a death sentence. And so the fact that I'm still alive means that I'm celebrating my 30th birthday, because I could have just been dead 30 years ago. So that's really quite exciting. I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if I had a birthday balloon that I could have around today? Anyway, what happened was that I had this diagnosis. Anyone who gets a cancer diagnosis gets a very big fright. But in those days, my children were very young. They were 8 and 5 years old. And so that was a doubly big fright, because I had young children to raise. And in those days also, I was extremely young to be getting cancer. 30 years down the road, people are getting it younger and younger. But in those days, I was one of the youngest people that anyone knew in our sort of circles. So I was faced with this diagnosis, and I went the full medical route. I had a massive surgery, I had over a year's worth of chemotherapy, and I had radiation. But I'm a biochemist and immunologist by training. And as you said earlier, we know, and I knew then because of my training, that the body is a self-sustaining organism, and that it knows what to do, and its mission is to stay strong and healthy. But it can't do that job unless it is properly nourished. I also knew that I was doing the best job I knew how to feed the family. And we were one of those really quite unusual families, I suppose, in that there was no junk food. I have to tell you, I've never bought my children ever a Kentucky Fried Chicken or a McDonald's. We just were not that kind of family. It was always home-cooked meals, no sweets to speak of, and so on. And here I was with a cancer diagnosis. And so I realized that what I was able to do with my best intentions was not enough to supply the nutrition that my body needed. Because if I was properly nourished, my immune system would have been up to the fight and would not have allowed me to go down that route. So while I was being treated, and I had my first chemo treatment before I'd even left hospital from the surgery, because everyone was extremely worried about my situation at that time, I decided immediately to look for some nutritional supplements to support me through this journey. I mentioned it to my oncologist, and I was now that I look back, I'm very grateful that he didn't say, don't do it, because to this day, there are many doctors who say, don't take any supplements at all. My doctor didn't actually say that, but he said, well, if it makes you happy, do it, but you will be wasting your money. So I said, well, that's fine. I'm happy to waste my money on that particular thing. And I went on the hunt for supplements that I felt would be worth taking. And I needed them to fill a number of criteria and tick a number of boxes, but two of them that I mention are that they needed to be all natural. They needed to come from food. I didn't want anything that was synthetic, and I didn't want anything that I wouldn't normally be eating. So I was looking for that. And the other thing that I needed them to do was to have been properly researched. And the reason for that was that I was a research scientist. It mattered to me. Research counts for me. And so I was extremely grateful when I was introduced to these products, because as people know on this call, if somebody doesn't tell you about it, you will never know. because you can't go into a shop and find out about it. And so I was told about these products, and here was something that I could commit to taking. And what I would like people to understand is that I didn't take a big basket full of things. I took some basic nutritional supplements from the NeoLife company. It wasn't called NeoLife at the time, but same products. And what I took would be equivalent to now a Pro Vitality and a CalMag. Basically, that was what I took. And then if I was not feeling like eating very much, I might add a NutriShake. And so those are the two products that I took. And well, the rest is history in terms of what it did for me, because I survived the treatment and I continued to live for 30 years. And I hope I'm not about to shuffle off. I think I'm strong and healthy and got a lot of living to do. But what is interesting is that when you do chemotherapy, you are on the same schedule as other people who are undergoing the treatment at the same time. And so you meet the same people at the chemo, the place where they administer the chemo every month or every 3 weeks or whatever the schedule is. And you get to know those people quite well because you see them regularly and you're all in the same boat. And so some of those people became friends of mine, and we continued our relationship after the treatment was over. And not one of those people actually made the 5-year mark. One got close to 5 years, the other didn't get close to 5 years. She made about 2 years. What is also interesting is that if you get 2 years of life post chemo, you're considered in the medical stats as a success story. Well, for me, 2 years post, not post chemo, but 2 years post diagnosis, you're considered a success story. 2 years post diagnosis would have given me about 9 months off treatment. And my kids would have been maybe 10 and 7 years old. That wasn't enough life. And so I got a whole lot more than those friends of mine got. And the reason I'm absolutely certain was that I was taking nutritional supplements, and not just any old nutritional supplements, but these particular ones. Those particular people, my friends, were not interested in following my lead. They didn't want to know. And so I'm extremely grateful that I found them, that I committed to taking them, and that I'm here to tell the story. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's so, the benefit of long-term nutrition is so big, and I don't think enough people realize that. These NeoLife products, my 3 children are 3rd generation on NeoLife nutrition. I've seen my parents use these products for the last 46 years, and I just look at their, in their 70s, their incredible health. They run a successful business. They travel overseas a few times every year. They are healthy, active people. They're not old. And I truly, and I look at people their age, and many of them are old and are unable to do the things that they do because they don't have the health. And they put that down to long-term good nutrition. And I think the key elements to take out of this story, you got this incredible success story of overcoming one of the chronic diseases. But I think it's important for the guests on the call, for our distributors, we aren't about going out and trying to find all the people and trying to cure everybody. And that's something that as a company, we don't commit to curing anybody. That's not what we do. But what the key thing here to take out of Dr. Andre's story is, when you give your body what it needs, your body can do remarkable things. And often it's too late for people that do have one of these diagnoses. Often it's too late and they don't get through it. But right now, when you have your health, maybe you're not 100% healthy, maybe you're a little bit more tired than you should be. Maybe you have you've got a slight blood pressure problem. Maybe you're carrying a little bit too much weight. Maybe your blood sugar levels aren't ideal. These are little warning signs, often precursors to greater issues that lie further down the road. And that is where we can really come in and play the role of prevention with good nutrition. And I just know this amazing journey of yours, Andre, has had a ripple effect, a profound ripple effect across so many lives. And because of what happened to you, you made it your mission to talk to other people about it, to share your story, to share the knowledge that you learned and had to figure out along the way. And not only was your life impacted, but have you, I know you have, tell us about some of the other lives that have been positively affected through you sharing your good nutrition story.
I will, certainly, Drew, but just, I forgot to mention something in the previous bit that I think is profoundly important too, that when you are not well and you are being treated, you tend to feel like a victim. So especially with something like cancer, you hand yourself over to the doctors for the treatment, and you hope, like Billy-O, that they're going to do something to mend you, but you are in victim mode. And I think that one of the very important things about taking the supplementation, over and above the fact that your body needs it and your body says, thank you very much, I can fight this battle for you, is that you gain agency. You are no longer the victim. You are playing a positive role in your health. And that is extremely empowering, because, if you feel nothing you can do and you hope that someone else is going to do it for you, you're on the back foot in terms of getting well. And when you are doing something that is actively contributing to the process, it serves you really well. And I want people to just perhaps hear that you are giving yourself and you're giving people power, instead of handing power over to other people, to the medical profession for your health. And that is, well, it's empowering. And that is a wonderful thing that we can do. But you're also right that we are not looking to cure sick people, because we can't offer that, and we certainly can't promise that, and we can't diagnose and we can't prescribe. It's not our job to do that. But my mission changed from looking after my own health to trying to teach people that prevention is very much better than cure, and that you can, in fact, equip your body to stay healthy and well and strong for longer, and probably not, in fact, go down into those chronic ailments at all. The only problem is that people find it difficult to hear that message. Just as it turned out for me, I needed a hammer on my head to suddenly realize, well, whatever you think you're doing right, it's not quite enough. And that's true for many people. And so to try and persuade people to do what they need to do to keep themselves healthy is quite a task. But that's the task that we've got. And as you said earlier in the introduction, COVID has been an interesting time. And one of the things that we all heard over and over and over again was that the people who got really sick with the virus and didn't make it were all suffering from what were called comorbidities. In other words, they already had health challenges. They were, in fact, people who were obese, who were diabetic, who had heart diseases and blood pressure diseases and all that kind of stuff. And they were the people who didn't have the power within their bodies to tackle this novel, it appears, virus. The rest of the people who were in better health basically managed to deal with it. And so we are really playing with fire if we allow ourselves to go down into the chronic disease situation. And most people these days do. We almost expect to get some chronic disease as we age. And people are surprised to hear that you're not taking any medication at all, for example, when you reach 60 or 70 or whatever. It's very unusual. And yes, so I do try and share my story with people who are well, but quite often the best traction you get is when people have got their own little problem or bigger problem that they really are now paying attention to. So I just want to mention two people that have gladdened my heart, well, three people that have gladdened my heart recently. And lots of people do gladden my heart. But one was a young woman, she's 34 years old, and she has two young children. And when she was pregnant with the second child, she suffered from extreme burnout, so much so that she was bedridden almost throughout the pregnancy. And then she obviously had the baby, and now she had two young children to look after, and she couldn't manage it. And she spent about 5 to 6 days out of 7 every week actually in bed, because she just didn't have the energy to get out of bed. Well, it is an amazing story, and I'm sure it wouldn't always happen, but she started taking Pro-Vitality, only Pro-Vitality. And she has continued taking it now for about a year, but within about a month, she was functional again. And she was going into a collapse maybe once a week, maybe one day a week, or one day every 2 weeks. And she has resumed a normal life. And she now doesn't expect to feel tired and worn out, although every now and again it still happens. And when it does happen, she's confessed to me, she looks back and she realized she forgot to take her Pro-Vitality. So this very simple box of product has in fact transformed her life, and transformed her husband's life, obviously, because he was now trying to run a business and two young children with his wife sick in bed. Can you imagine that? And then the other one was also a young woman. And she said that she'd just been to every doctor she could imagine. And the doctors kept on saying, you've got depression. And she said, I know it's not depression, it's something else. And they wanted to put her on antidepressants. And we met by accident, and I just suggested to her that she try Pro-Vitality. And she, in fact, is not on she hasn't had to go back to the doctor. She's certainly not on antidepressants. And she too has said to me, you saved my life. Now, obviously, I didn't save her life. The product saved her life. But they are very powerful stories. And then one other, which is much more recent, it just happened last month, is that I reconnected with a person that we hadn't been in touch with for about 30 years. And she said that she had had a mastectomy, but she also had some sort of autoimmune condition, and that she was on chemo drugs not for the mastectomy, but for the autoimmune condition. And she just was constantly in pain and so on and so forth. And she wanted some information, which I sent her. But I did mention that one of the things that I really thought she should look into was the health of her gut, and that acidophilus would be a good thing to try, as well as some other things. So this information was still in the process of traveling between her and me. She lives in the Eastern Cape. And she phoned me, that was on the Friday, she phoned me on the Sunday, and she says, I can't wait to talk to you, because I realized that in our cupboard there was a probiotic, just a probiotic. And so I started taking it because waiting to have more information from you. And she said, the pain has gone. I feel like a new person. I want more products. Now she has bought ours, and she says she's a farmer's wife, and she said that the staff and her husband are kind of peeping around the door in astonishment, because she used to be so ill-tempered, and she used to find fault in everything they did, and many times during the course of the day she would be shouting at the staff. she's not shouting at anybody anymore, and they just can't believe it. they can't. They're sort of waiting for the moment when she's going to blow her top again, and it hasn't happened. And they're such simple solutions that make a huge difference to people's lives. And so my message to people who are listening in is that you simply cannot go wrong either in taking any of our products, but if you can, as a starting kit, take Pro Vitality, that would be great. But any of our products will do you a whole lot of good and will do anybody that you talk to a whole lot of good. You simply cannot do them any less than some good, and it's often far more good than you ever imagined. And so I just want to pay a little bit of attention to Pro Vitality because it's such a wonderful product. And I regard it as a Rolls Royce of a multivitamin, because it's not just the vitamins and minerals, but it's also got all these added extras that we all know so well. The first added extra is, of course, the treonine. And the people who don't know this company would not know this yet, but the rest of us do. It's the only company on the planet that has got this particular product. And this particular product, called treonine, was discovered or understood to be important in 1958, which is 62 years ago. It's actually the product in which the whole company was founded. And it was found to be an essential nutrient that was being removed because of the refining of the grains that was starting to become the regular practice in those days. It was becoming regular practice because food was being mass produced, and it was important to be able to make bread by hundreds and thousands of loaves and to have them in the shops and to have a long shelf life for those breads. But what they were doing in the process was removing the real nutritional value of the grains and leaving us really with just the empty calories, the carbohydrates. And they discovered that people were just losing their energy. They weren't sick. There was nothing identifiable wrong with them, but they just weren't feeling great at all. And so the researchers found that when they added those oils from the grains back into the diet of people, their energy came back. And that is what treonine is about. And so anybody who is a bit short on energy will find big benefit from treonine. But it's not just the energy, it's actually every single cell in your body needs it to function properly, and therefore every single organ in your body needs it, and therefore you cannot do without it. And if you're running on empty in terms of those particular oils, they're called lipids and sterols, you will not feel great, and you will, over time, get sick. So it's a very important thing to add. And a multivitamin that you get somewhere else that doesn't have that is running you short. There's just no question about it. And then they've added to it the omega, and the omega is something that I think everybody who isn't an Eskimo should probably be, should be taking. We do not get it enough in our diets. Because we don't get enough of it, we live in a state of chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is what is considered to be the foundational cause of all our ill health. And it's not only an anti-inflammatory, which is a super important role, but it is also a structural component of our brains. And so if you're running short on omega-3, you're basically running short on brain power. And we don't want to do that, do we? Our brains are fundamentally important to us, and we want to be as sharp mentally as we can possibly be. So omega-3 is super important. I have a little ditty which I teach people sometimes, which is head, heart, prostate, knees. And those are places where you can think about the benefits of omega-3. Head, the brain; heart, because it is extremely important for the health of the heart and the circulation; prostate, because it's an essential nutrient for men to keep their prostates healthy; and knees because of the anti-inflammatory effect and the arthritis and so on, sore knees and sore joints. And then the final component is the carotenoid complex, which is the immune booster. And when we suffer from infections or cancers or any of those ailments, it's because our immune system isn't functioning properly. And so we need to have the nutrients on board which build our immune systems, and the carotenoid complex does just that. So there's a complete package that sets us up for good health. And I obviously am aware of the fact that, that people's financial circumstances are different. If someone can afford Pro Vitality, it's the best starting point. If they cannot afford Pro Vitality, then any one of those components would be of value. But what I would probably say, the least that you should take is the TreaNM. If there's only one thing you can take the TreaNM. And that on its own will start transforming your life. And when you start feeling better and so on and more energetic, maybe you will start sharing that news with other people, and you can generate a bit of money for yourself, and then you can afford Pro Vitality for yourself. So that's a fantastic possibility, because you can start making the money that you need to support. I call it supporting your habit. Just happens to be a good habit rather than a bad habit. As far as the cost is concerned, it's an interesting calculation to do, because it depends on priorities for a lot of people. And again, I just want to say, I really do understand that people for whom putting a loaf of bread on the table is a struggle. And I feel desperately sad for people like that. But we have to understand that those are not our market. If you are selling nutritional supplements, those people are not your market. So people who are looking at taking supplements, what is really affordable? And here's an interesting comparison. A small takeaway coffee cappuccino from Woolworths in a plastic, no, I mean in a disposable cup. It's not very big, smells delicious. In fact, you can benefit just from the smell. I think I walk through Woolies just to get the smell of the coffee, and I'm quite satisfied with that. And I save the 27 Rand. But people will spend 27 Rand on a takeaway coffee without batting an eyelid. I mean, it's just what you do. And I just want to add another thing I saw. I was at a checkout counter, and there was a young woman. I'm sure she was a university student. She was just ahead of me, and she was buying what must have been her lunch, I suppose. And there was a packet of chips, and there was a drink, a fizzy drink, and there was a small packet of about 3 rusks. You can buy rusks in small amounts, and there was a chocolate. And I wanted to see how much it cost. So I watched as the cashier was ringing it up. And it was a matter of cents short of 50 Rand. So here was a student who was perfectly happy to spend 50 Rand on 100% junk in terms of nutritional value. And presumably she did that every day. That's probably how she fed herself. So 50 Rand on junk, 27 Rand on a Woolies cappuccino. And at retail, you can get a daily supply of those amazing health supporting nutrients in a Pro Vitality for 25 Rand. So it is a matter of priorities. What are your priorities? Your health or a few moments of pleasure, which is basically what the coffee is. So it makes me sit up and take notice.
Wonderful. André, thank you so much. When you put the cost like that, it just actually hits you square between the eyeballs. It's not a big investment in your health if you prioritize it. And there's that analogy of don't wait for a sledgehammer to hit you over the back of your head before you sit up and pay attention to your health. It's a cliched saying, but health is your greatest wealth. And it's so sad because so many people only figure that out once it is too late. And so, as a company and as a NeoLife community and family, we are on this mission to make this world a healthier and a happier place. Yes, I know that we can help people that are having health challenges. We don't commit to curing anything, but we've seen so many incredible stories. But our real focus is those families that, hey, they're pretty healthy. They may have the odd niggle here and there. Maybe they're a little bit too shouty and have a few other things, but their pro-vitality, I just think, is such an amazing place to start. And that is one of the reasons why we have that pro-vitality, is to keep things simple. And André mentioned that it's a good habit. And so we put that pro-vitality product together because it ticks all the boxes, so that when you have that little sachet, you can have the confidence that you're giving your body or your spouse or your kid's body everything that it needs. And it's just such a great place to start. And when things are simple, they become duplicatable and people can do it on a daily basis. And that's the key thing, is nutrition is not a month, you don't do 1 month and not the other. It's a daily habit that we need to bring into our lives. And it's at a really reasonable cost for a massive, massive reward. So André, thank you for your story. I just so appreciate it. And I hope, yes.
Can I just add one thing, Drew? One sentence. I don't know if people picked it up right at the beginning, but I would like to repeat it to distributors on the call. And that is, if someone had not told me about these products, I would not have known about them, and I probably would be dead, to be a bit melodramatic. But the responsibility we have as distributors is enormous. That people need to hear what we've got. What they do with it then is entirely up to them. It's not our responsibility to make their decisions for them, but they need to hear that there is something that can help them. And if we don't open our mouths, and I'm not talking to anyone, I'm including myself in that. If we don't open our mouths and tell people, we might just be condemning someone to a journey in ill health that they would not want to take. We've got a huge responsibility, and it's a huge honor to be able to tell people. So don't waste the opportunity.
Yeah, and on that point, for the guests on the call, we don't sell our products in retail stores. There's no way we can get nutrition of this quality direct to the end consumer through retail stores. So we sell it directly to the consumer, okay? And we rely on our NeoLife distributors and our family to share this message. So first of all, if you're a guest, I hope this information and the story hasn't just given you knowledge, but I hope it's given you the ambition or the drive and the motivation to actually implement some good nutrition into your life, into your family's lives on a daily basis. It's one of the greatest investments you'll ever make for you and your family. Secondly, if you have had a benefit, or if you use the product and you enjoy it, or you feel the difference, whether you're a distributor or customer, I'm going to ask you to do us a big favor and to help us share this message with other people that need to know this information. Because we know as a company, there's no ways we're going to achieve our mission to make this world a healthier and a happier place. We're not going to end this trend of chronic disease on our own. We're going to do it together as a NeoLife community. So that is what I ask you off the back of tonight's call. And as always, if you have any questions, please get back to the person who got you onto this call. If they don't know the answer, they will find somebody who does know the answer. But our goal is to become your nutrition home, a place where you can come get your information and your products that aren't based on hype or the latest fad. It's based on solid nutrition science and fact, and it will really make a difference to you and your family. So Dr. André, thank you so much. We so appreciate what you do for our family, our NeoLife family, and who you are. And to everyone on the call, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us your time. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Good night.